Hi, this is Brandon from thirstgym.com. Today we're talking about an exercise called the offset kettlebell front rack Bulgarian split squat. Another mouthful exercise that we got, but it's going to provide some detail on where we're going to have the load. And this is a nice Bulgarian split squat variation that you can start working in with some different breathing mechanics, rib cage position, and also start playing around with some different loading patterns. So the Bulgarian split squat is a great exercise. Some people call it a rear foot elevated split squat. Essentially, your foot's going to be elevated on something and we'll perform a split squat. We've talked about the Bulgarian split squat in the past, so you can find that video on our YouTube channel or on our website. However, this loading variation, we're going to talk about some variety and things that it changes. So you're going to need a kettlebell. We're going to have it in our front rack position, so hand through the kettlebell over on the horn. Actually, we're going to punch ourselves in terms of how we're going to load this. The next thing is that's going to be the side, the leg that's back. We're going to load that side. So we're going to offset the leg that is working, okay? So we got the contralateral side with the offset here. So what we're going to have is we're going to have our right leg is going to go back onto our split squat pad here. I'm in my Bulgarian split squat position. I'm going to make sure that my pelvis is rotated forward. We don't want to leave this back. Okay, rotated forward, heavy on the heel. This hip's going to go back. Chest is going to stay tall. We want this shoulder, okay, this scapula is going to push forward while this is loaded anteriorly. This is also going to start loading my abdominals, so it's going to try to yank me this way. It's going to make my left side of my abdominals and obliques, internal obliques and everything turn on and work hard. We're going to come down and then back up. So just like that. Okay? So why would this loading scheme be better than a regular split squat? So you just want to go load up, heavy for weight, double it up with two dumbbells and get after it, load up the legs. However, a lot of times what we find with many athletes, they're super extended. So a lot of times you give them a dumbbell and they're going to be like this and they're going to stay toe heavy and they're just going to try to really power through that, okay? We might want to try to get some more abdominal work, try to get the rib cage and the pelvis stacked a little bit better. We might use some PRI principles. So notice that's on the right side of me. We could technically, if someone's in a left AIC pattern, we might be able to load this side, which is then going to make the left side close down and work harder. So if we know that this side's flared, we might program them to have just the right side loaded, which we would denote in our programming. So you might have this side loaded to help work with some of that breathing mechanics, low back pain, while also still getting, obviously, some hip flexion mobility while you're going down. There's just a lot of different options available here. You also get the fact that that scapula has to protract around while you're holding it here versus having it pinched back and down like we kind of just talked about being the extended pattern. So there's a couple different reasons why you might do that. I personally think for many athletes, it prevents them from having to just cheat and trying to load up too heavy on it. Some of our athletes, we want them to get heavy on it, but there's other athletes where we're trying to focus on some abdominal work while also getting the lower body, hip flexor stretching. There's just a lot of things you can get out of this exercise, so I prefer that offset load for some of our athletes that are able to do it. And like I said, especially if we know they've got that left AIC pattern, we definitely are going to try to program them that way to try to get them out of that pattern as much as possible. When we're programming this, it depends honestly if you're using it as a strength exercise or an accessory work, and depending upon time of year for some of your athletes, that might dictate that. I know for many of our runners, I choose not to squat them in season. I choose to make their heavy work single leg, and this is definitely one of those options that I like for a lot of my runners. So we might do this for 5s and 6s in our in season. And out of season, we might be using some split squat variations for 8s and 10s to try to put some more size on them when they're out of season. So keep that in mind when you're working with your athletes, 3 to 4 sets. Obviously, anybody that's done a Bulgarian split squat knows the soreness that you're going to entail the next day on the glutes, maybe even in the quads, depending upon how you perform them. Because your torso angle will dictate that a little bit. The more upright you are, you're probably going to feel a little bit more in your quads. And if you're leaned forward, you're probably going to feel a little more glute emphasis. I do think the offset position does kind of tend to get you in that natural position where you get a decent torso position. But you will know how the glutes feel. So when you're programming this, keep that in mind, especially if you're working with athletic populations. You want to try to limit that soreness, so keep those reps down and keep this in the strength bank instead of hypertrophy. If it's that time of year for your athletes. So if you got any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section. Thanks. Have a great day.